is going on, everybody? It's been a little minute. Most of you guys probably don't know me and asking, who the heck is this guy making this video? Well, if you don't know me, I've been on Amazon Twitter for maybe 2 years now. Nothing huge. 2,000 followers. I went hard at it for a little bit. I think I made quality videos, and then I stopped. Why? Well, listen, give me 60 seconds. I'm going to give you the whole spiel, who I am, what I did, and what's happening now with me. Let's go start now, right? So who am I? Well, Anthony Mancini. I ended up quitting my job almost a year ago. I was a director for a Crown Corporation, billion-dollar company. We did a lot of money. I did a lot of money, but it wasn't fulfilling me. I wanted to move on. So I went into Amazon, right? Met this guy who introduced me to the space. I loved it right from the start. You know, I was doing 7,000, 8,000. I'm not one of these guys that went to 100K right away. I was doing 7,000, 8,000 a month. Fast forward, I went up to 10, 15, 20K, started making videos, amassed a little following, had some fun with it, but fell into the trap of just making content and coaching. And although I think I was a good coach, I was just I was negligible with my business. I wasn't paying attention enough to my business. So I ended up stalling for many, many, many months. Took the time off, stopped tweeting, stopped making videos. Was able to scale during Christmas using FBA in Canada. I want to talk about that. And then now, well, I'm making around 60K a month, planning to scale this out of this roof in the next 2 months. I want to talk about it all. I want to talk about the journey, right? How do you, a new seller, can go from 0 to 10K, then someone go from 10K to 50K, 50K to 100K. And then I'd love to tell you the rest, but I ain't there, right? So if you haven't noticed, if you watched my older videos, a little bit more authentic. I want to kind of ditch that high editing, fast energy type of video. I want to slow things down a bit. I'm just a fast talker in general, so pace is always going to be quick. But I want to slow it down just a little bit, right? So in today's talk, right, no fancy editing, it's just me. Hopefully you like this. I just want to talk about, like I said, growing your Amazon business. And I'm going to talk about my personal experience. So maybe you have gone through different experiences and you are a bigger seller than me. Cool. Hope you enjoy. This is my content, right? So this is how I went from 0 to 10, 10 to 50, and how I'm planning to go from 50 to 100. So 0 to 10K. I was there around 2 years ago. It didn't take me super long to get out of it, maybe 4 months. But I think a lot of people jump to these crazy numbers really quick on Twitter, and it gives a false illusion to a new seller because honestly, 0 to 10K, it's all about gaining the experience to then get comfortable to spend the amounts of money that will take you to get to 10K, right? Learning Keepa, like getting all those initial questions and worries out the way. I'd say 0 to 10K is like a tutorial in a video game, right? Anybody could get out from there, right? Just keep at it, right? It will take maybe longer for some. If you're starting with $100, right? After all, you're paying your expenses and stuff like that, all the softwares that it takes, all you have is $100 for inventory. It's going to take you a hell of a long time to get to 10K. But if you have a healthy amount, you know, like at least 2,000, at least, well, you're going to be able to get to 10K. If you just keep at it, you just learn. Once you get the tutorial out the way, now we're in the game of 10 to 50K, right? Because you can get to 10K and then you start realizing, wow, this is actually not that much money. Now it depends how high your margins are. What are you doing? Are you taking a prep center? Are you not taking a prep center? All these things will play into your margins. Are you getting a VA really early on? I did. Was it a mistake? I'm not sure. I don't think so because I was able to fulfill a relationship with him that I still work with him to this day. And I trust him with everything and we're friends, right? Because I took him on early. However, efficiency-wise, I think that you're burning margins on a VA when you should be learning more. That is absolutely true, right? So again, you're at 10K. Like I said, I'm not going to spend too much time on 0 to 10K because that's a tutorial. Just keep on going. You're going to be able to get out of it. You got to learn this. You got to learn the game, right? The game starts at 10K. And now you're not making that much money. So you're like, okay, I need to start scaling now. How do I scale? In my opinion, it's a long journey of just learning how to stay in stock and learning, like, not necessarily the basic systems, but the systems of what's selling the best for me, right? I'm hoping you're using a platform that will track individual ASINs, their performance, right? So something like Seller Board. Now you're able to see what's selling good, right? Now you're reordering. You're making sure that ASIN is always in stock. And I mean always in stock. Of course, there's some things out of your control, right? Amazon can take forever to check things in. That will happen, but you have to take that into account. You got to learn on, okay, how many times am I going to sell this per month? Should I carry a little bit more? But now you got to be smart with Keepa, making sure that you're actually buying the right amounts and you're not overbuying, right? So all these things you need to learn. And like, again, repricing strategies, there's so many things that you actually now need to go on to another level to reach that 50K. But I want to say that the number one thing you need to learn from 10 to 50K is learning how to buy enough quantity to stay in stock, and then also maintaining that stock level to where you're never running out of stock. And like, I know that sounds easy, but it's really hard. Certainly with order cancellations, right? Depending on the model you're doing, I do mainly OA. I forget to mention that. Hopefully you knew this by now. I do mainly OA. So sometimes there's order cancellations that play a role, and you got to make sure that your stock is always there. And not only that, your good stock. That also means learning how to manage your cash flow and really liquidating that bad stock so you can go ahead and buy more of your good stock. Meanwhile, always introducing a new flow of ASINs into your inventory pool, making sure that's growing, right? Because another thing that you're learning to do is like, you're learning that now every single ASIN walking through your doors, like I say, right? Walking into your portfolio of ASINs is now a new opportunity for a long-term replan, right? 80% of their products are going to be like that. Well, if you are never introducing new ASINs into your portfolio, well, what's going to happen is there's a natural churn, right, with tanked products of your quality ASINs. So some ASINs can last over a year and being quality, but some will be great for 4 months and then fall off, right? And they might come back later, but there's a certain churn, like employees churn at a employment, right? Inventory churns in its performance. So if you don't have inflow of new ASINs coming in, well, your performing ASINs, maybe you're at 30, 40K per month because you have 4 ASINs that are like fantastic. Well, the minute 2 of them go bad, you're dropping back to 20K, right? You need to be able to have a constant flow where that is then going to play a role in becoming new superstars for you. And then you have that constant flow of superstars, and you're almost like drafting like a sports team and hoping to get that good player that will change your whole landscape, right? And by 50K, now at this point, you know how to keep your stock in, right? Keep your stock in stock. You're always introducing new inventory into your portfolio, making sure that your best products are always diversified, and it's never just 3 or 4 products for the long term, right? And now you need to really go from 50 to 100K, right? Now at this point, this is where this might get controversial just because I am not there yet, right? I'm currently doing around 60,000 a month. I am trying. I think I have the recipe for 100K a month, but I'm just going to go ahead and say what I think it is. Now, there's going to be bigger sellers that might say otherwise, and that's all good. But here we go. I think it's all about now learning cash flow to a new level, whereas you might have to take on debt if you don't have the capital. And you need to know, okay, how much per month is Amazon paying me, right? Including the cost of goods sold that I spent on the inventory, right? How much is it paying me so I can go ahead and take on debt to go in deeper? And now again, going in deeper comes with a lot more responsibility. That comes with now knowing Keepa to a tremendous level, to the point where you can confidently say, okay, I think I can get by 50 of these units, 100 of these units, 200 of these units, 300 of these units, right? Now, again, sometimes it's going to be blind calls, and you're not doing test orders anymore because you are now really sure of your shot. Because at this point, depending how long you've been doing this, if you've been in that 10 to 50K long enough, you start understanding Keepa now. And now it's like, okay, I have to make big bets because I'm pretty confident this will sell 100 times a month. I do think I can capture a high percentage of the buy box, so I'm going to execute it. And now every ASIN starts becoming a couple of hundred, if not thousands of dollars per purchase, right? So now you're buying 5 ASINs in one day and you're spending $5,000 to $8,000. And then that's how your spend starts going really high. And in theory, if you are executing your calls right, well, now you have money coming back in and your cash flow should be significantly higher, allowing you to then spend more. And then also, if you're able to, you're also cycling different credit cards right through their statement dates. So it allows you to spread your debt just later. So instead of, in 1 month, if I spent $100,000, I'm not going to have $100K on one card, right? I might have, there might be two different, and you can use ChatGPT to really split this if you give it the information. That's what I did. And you can really start splitting periods where you're spending on certain credit cards to allow you to pay that card as far as possible, right? So these things are what you need to learn for 50 to 100K, because it's all about now making right decisions on Keepa. Now, test orders are still good on products that you're not certain about, and test orders are great for creating diamonds when nobody are on it, right? Because maybe this listing doesn't look like it's performing well. So I'm going to do a test order, right? Nothing crazy. And if I see my test order start selling very fast because there's not a lot of competition on the listing, well, then I might go really deep in there. But in general, where a listing might have competition in it, but I think I can legitimately buy 50 to 100, well, then I'll execute it, right? And these things are all things I learned recently through other sellers, right? And I really think that is the secret to going to 100K plus, right? Is there a whole buttload of other things to take into consideration? Absolutely. I'm not right now going to make a 30-minute video. I don't have that much time, but I had a quick 15 minutes in my day that I really want to do this. Got a lot of prep to do, and I got a couple minutes left, so I do want to just talk about one more thing. Hopefully you enjoyed that little rant, if you want to call it, or educational piece, to go from 0 to 100K broken down into 3 pieces. In my opinion, the one thing at least that is the most important thing. I know I didn't spend too much time on 0 to 10K, but at least from 10 to 50 and then 50 to 100K, right? So next thing I want to talk about quickly is prep. I, for a long time, had a prep center. And for a long time, I thought it was most definitely the biggest piece in my business and my favorite part of the business, right? I never had to put my hands on any inventory. And, that idea sounds amazing. And even to this day, I'm not going to say that I'll never go back to a prep center. However, you have to take into consideration this is a scaling expense, right? Everything else, like you can say seller snaps expensive for a repricer. Well, if you're doing the sales, it's a $700 Canadian if you have 2 marketplaces, or $500 US. And now that's $500 whether you're making 10K in profit or 40K in profit, right? Every other expense is like that, that's fixed, except for a variable expense like a prep center. If you're sending in 1,000 units, well, most prep centers, after all, like the extra fees, even if you're sending volume, is going to cost around that $1, because it might be 80 cents per unit, but then you got to calculate poly bags, the boxes they're shipping you. It ends up around that $1. And if you're not sending in volume, it's a little bit more. But let's just use $1 to make it easy. Well, if you're sending 1,000, okay, that's $1,000. Well, now you're sending 2,000, well, that's $2,000, 3,000, right? So yeah, if you're at the point where you're sending in 3,000 units, that $3,000, you'll be able to eat the cost. But that's $3,000, man. That could be straight back into your pocket at the end of the month, and then making your margins incredible. Now, down the line, if I want to take a 6-month vacation, do I mind paying a prep center? No, because I'm on vacation and I want to take my time off, and I don't want to have that pressure of having to prep. And yeah, my margins are going to be a little bit lower for those months. But for the scaling phase, all right, I don't think there's an excuse. And you might say, okay, I got a 9 to 5. I don't have time to prep. I've been there. Totally understand you, and I don't even blame you for going to a prep center. I'm going to go over this 15 minutes. I'm sorry, guys. But I still think the better decision is to prep yourself, because, and I know that's going to make long nights. Find an efficient way to do it. Invest in the proper tools to do it if you're scaling, right? Like thermal label printers, whether it be a Rollo or a third third-party name like that that's a little bit on the cheaper side. I have 2 Stallion Express thermal printers for the Canadian people. They were like $150 each. It's worth it, right? I use 2D Workflow. You don't need to use 2D Workflow, but I find that it adds to my efficiency. And things are relatively quick. Yeah, I do this full time, so it's a little bit different. It's not like I have a 9 to 5, but I did have a 9 to 5. And if I had my efficient way of doing things now, I think that I would have been able to do it. And what that does is it boosts your margins significantly, in my opinion, and it makes your overall business a lot more healthy, and things are just more positive when you're healthy, right? Because when you're scaling, and certainly when you're growing in that 10 to 50K growth spurt that you kind of go through, things sometimes can look like rough, man. At least for me, it did. Like some months your refunds are high, you have high expenses. Certainly I took on a VA, that's a whole other discussion, but your expenses are high, and you might have made like 3K in the month, but in the end you pocketed like 600, 700. Like that's not cool, man. Like you don't want to be in that situation. Like take on those expenses later when you start making $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 in the month. Okay, yeah, sure. Take away that 2,000, whatever. But in my opinion, I still don't have a prep center. I use my real estate that I own, and I rent out 1 unit to myself, right? And it's entirely used for prep. I do think I need to move out eventually and maybe get a little bit of a bigger storage unit space. But for now, I got a 12-foot by 12-foot room, and I do everything in there. I know not everybody's going to have the luxury of that, but at least it gives you all that margin back, right? I'll end on that. That's the biggest thing, in my opinion. Your margins will go up by 3-4%. And in the long run, that could mean a crap ton of money. All right. That's all. That's where I'm going to end it. I do want to talk about a lot of things in the future. VAs in particular. I love my VA. I think VAs are an excellent tool for not only businesses of Amazon, all kinds of businesses, but for new sellers. Should you take on VA? Shouldn't you take on a VA, etc.? So I don't know the frequency I'm going to post these. I'm going to post these on X. I'm going to post these on YouTube. It performs how it performs. For me, just a way, call it a verbal diary that I'm talking to a camera. It's kind of what I want to talk about. So yeah,